From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
It's 5 o'clock. Good Monday morning. Thank you so much for starting your day with us here on Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Our top story this morning, President Joe Biden will hit the road this week to promote his Build Back Better plans. Democrats in Congress are trying to find middle ground as different factions of the party make their demands. CBS's Laura Podesta has more.
Lawmakers are still negotiating President Biden's legislative agenda.
We all want the infrastructure bill. Great. But we also have got to do the reconciliation bill, which addresses the long neglected needs of working families and the elderly. You know, expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses, doing childcare, doing community colleges.
Progressives say they're willing to lower the $3.5 trillion price tag, but want to keep in their policies on climate change, childcare, and more.
Fully fund what we can fully fund, but maybe instead of doing it for 10 years, you fully fund it for 5 years.
More conservative members of the party, like Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, have taken issue with the cost.
We understand we have to get 50 senators on board, and we have to keep everyone in the House on board.
Without the larger social spending bill, some House Democrats won't support the smaller $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that passed the Senate with bipartisan support in August.
We don't want to pit roads and bridges against childcare.
House Republicans say the spending would devastate the economy
and really be a kick in the gut to middle-class families.
President Biden travels to Michigan tomorrow to drum up support.
I believe I can get this done. I believe when the American people are aware what's in it, we can get it done.
Democrats hope to have both bills passed in the next month. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
And Congress has until October 18th to raise the debt ceiling. Republicans say they won't help Democrats do so despite raising it multiple times during the Trump administration. Now it's time to turn our attention to weather. Miller joins us here on the set with that. You know, it was a pretty nice day yesterday. The windows open. Yeah, nice fall day. What's going on today?
Well, it's going to be another day where we're going to stay in the 80s. In fact, we'll be in the 80s today and tomorrow. We could see some record warmth. And then we're going to cool down. Now we're going to be dry the next couple of days, so we do have that elevated fire danger. We'll show you that here coming up with a full forecast. But not a bad start this morning at the airport. We're sitting at 56 degrees, humidity at 24%. That number is going to fall. And those winds out of the southwest at about 16 miles an hour. Still going to be breezy today. You combine that with the low humidity, that's why we have that elevated fire risk this afternoon through tomorrow as well. High yesterday of 82, so staying above average. Our overnight low of 47, above average as well. Top gust yesterday of 24. We start off the month on a dry note, about 4.5 inches in the hole for the year. So we're not going to see any rain the next couple of days, but maybe starting the middle of the week, at least by Thursday, possibly seeing a dent made in those drought conditions. Not a whole lot of rain though, so we'll keep our eye on that. Temperatures out there right now mainly in the 40s and 50s as we wake up. Highs mainly in the 80s today. You can see some areas actually knocking on the door of 90. Hang in there. Cool down on the way. Maybe even a big wet pattern will finally come in next week to maybe give us a better chance of seeing some rains. Fingers crossed. A lot of stuff going on out there. We'll take a look with the main forecast coming up.
Yeah, it came up on a Facebook memory this past weekend or maybe late last week. It was the end of September and it was snowing. And I took a picture and I put it on Facebook and I was like, we were playing, you know, in the snow. It was light, blurry, but yeah, it was like, wow, times
Are you ready for the
changed.
snow? Are you ready?
You know, I think we need it, and so yeah, I'll say I'm ready. It's just another winter.
We'll get to work on that for you.
Yeah. All right, Miller. I will get back to news. Thanks. Okay. Crews are trying to contain an oil spill that shut down beaches in Orange County, California. A suspected leak in an underwater pipeline spilled more than 100,000 gallons of oil into the ocean, killing fish and birds. CBS's Laura Perez has the latest on the cleanup effort.
Well, it's very disfortunate.
Residents we spoke with say they feel helpless knowing a massive oil slick of nearly 13 square miles is polluting the waters off Orange County. The source, a broken pipeline connected to an oil platform, leaked almost 130,000 gallons of oil just 4 miles off the Newport Beach coast.
It's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. Why do we have to have these things out in the ocean? so close to the shore.
As darkened waves and black globs of tar have been coming in with the tide, health experts have been warning exposure to the toxic chemicals in petroleum can cause headaches, vomiting, and shortness of breath. Newport Beach has closed the ocean to swimming and surfing, though that didn't stop some from getting in. Likewise in Huntington Beach, stunning some neighbors like Todd Clark.
You could already see the oil on the water. So I was kind of surprised.
The offshore rig, called the Ellie, is operated by Beta Offshore, an affiliate of Amplify Energy, one of the largest oil producers in Southern California. Since the leak was revealed Saturday, Amplify crews working with state and local teams have been moving into place, spreading booms to contain the slick and using pressurized equipment to collect what they can. Environmental experts say the cleanup could take months.
We are fully committed to being out here until this incident is fully concluded.
The cause of the spill is still under investigation. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Michelle Steele has asked President Biden for a major disaster declaration here in Orange County. Lori Perez, CBS News, Corona Del Mar.
Officials are expected to give their next update on the spill and the cleanup later this morning. Today, leaders from North and South Korea shared their first phone call since August. North Korea cut the cross-border hotline after South Korea participated in joint military exercises with the U.S. News of the renewed communication follows 4 missile tests by North Korea in the last month as it continues the development of its weapons program. Today, the Biden administration will formally accuse China of failing to keep its end of a trade deal reached under President Trump. Phase 1 of the agreement required China to purchase $200 billion in U.S. goods over a 2-year period. China has not fulfilled that promise. The announcement will be the Biden administration's most critical position against China so far. China's purchases of U.S. exports are about 62% of the target set in the trade deal. Today, the Supreme Court returns to the chambers for its new session with a slate of high-profile cases already lined up. The High Court will hear a case that is a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade regarding Mississippi's 15-week abortion plan. That case was already on the docket before justices voted 5-4 last month to allow the 6-week abortion ban in Texas to take effect. The Supreme Court will also hear a case concerning the Second Amendment on November 3rd. This will be the first time in more than a year the Supreme Court will meet in person. In campus news, the University of Montana is welcoming one of its most diverse freshman classes ever to Missoula. MTN's Hannah Hislop has more.
The University of Montana brings in thousands of students to Missoula each year. Meet the newest members of the community, UM's freshman class.
The freshman class is big, it's vibrant, and it's diverse.
UM's census data going back to 2013 shows a dip in student enrollment, but then a huge increase in enrollment from 2019 to 2021, with 1,555 UM freshmen enrolled this fall semester, an increase that the university believes is on the up and up.
And that's why we're so proud at this enrollment number that we're bringing in a really, really diverse freshman class.
Of the 1,555 freshman students at UM, roughly 25% are first-generation students, 1% are international students, and 57% are in-state residents. Nearly 26% of the freshmen identify with a race or ethnicity other than white. Students that identify as female make up a majority of the freshman population, with 43% of the student body identifying as male. Kuhn says that all of the data they collect is from students, as students self-report. The university is striving for inclusivity and diversity on campus, following what they call a flagship for the future strategic adaptation. It has 6 basic principles: impact, inclusivity, interdisciplinary, internationalization, inquiry, and innovation. Kuhn says that all of these contribute to the growing number of diverse student body that they're seeing as the years progress. The campus also has clubs and a student government body that works closely with the university to help make these changes.
For the last 10 years, we've seen the University of Montana's population get more diverse with each year, and that's our Native American students, our Asian students, our African American students, and our Hispanic students, and we're really proud of that. We think the more diverse this campus can be, the more rich the educational experience can be, and better the student experience can be.
If you are interested in looking at campus numbers other than the incoming freshman class, you can head over to kpax.com for that link. In Missoula, Hannah Hislop, MTN News.
It is also that time of year for college students to determine how much financial aid they can get. A new law is expected to open eligibility for Pell Grants to an additional 500,000 students. In 2020, the maximum Pell Grant amount was just over $6,300. That didn't even cover a quarter of tuition at an average public or private school. Meanwhile, in 1973, a student could get up to $1,400. That more than covered tuition at a public school and nearly 70% at a private school. There is a national campaign pushing for the max award to be $13,000 by next June. In New York City, 1 in 10 teachers are facing suspension as a vaccine requirement goes into effect today. All 148,000 New York City school employees were required to get their first shot by last Friday after losing legal appeals. New York's school mandate goes into effect as children are increasingly at risk. The CDC says hospitalization of patients 4 years old and under is at the highest rate so far in the pandemic. Other states and cities across the country are scrambling to prepare for worker shortages due to vaccine mandates. Connecticut even brought in the National Guard as potential replacements for unvaccinated workers. In Washington, today is the deadline for state workers to show they've had their shots. A new study found unvaccinated Americans are 8 times more likely to test positive for COVID. Thousands of women are reporting a potential side effect of the COVID-19 vaccine when it comes to monthly cycles. Now, the National Institutes of Health is launching a study to see if there's a possible connection. CBS's Dina Demetrius reports.
When Dr. Catherine Lee got her COVID vaccine, she experienced something unexpected.
I ended up with really strong cramps and a little bit of breakthrough bleeding after both vaccines.
After a friend and fellow scientist had similar changes after the shot, they created a survey that has received more than 150,000 responses describing excessive or more frequent bleeding, more pain, and missed periods.
The information that we have is anecdotal.
Now the National Institutes of Health has launched a new study to investigate if there's a connection between COVID-19 vaccination and monthly cycles. Dr. Diana Bianchi is leading the research.
I can't stress enough the importance of having a control group to be able to dissect out whether it is actually the vaccine that's causing the changes.
The research may also provide information for women concerned about the short and long-term effects of the vaccine on reproductive health.
How helpful do you think it is to do a study like this while there's such a push to get the COVID vaccine in general?
I believe that there's a certain percentage of people who are hesitant because they don't have enough information. And that's our goal, is to provide information and reassure people that whatever changes occur with the menstrual cycle are temporary and that they do not affect your fertility.
COVID is really bad. It makes people very sick. And having a couple of months of cramping or spotting for me personally is totally worth the protection.
Dr. Lee is also looking to expand her survey into a formal study. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Researchers in the UK are also planning to study the possible connection after almost 30,000 reports of monthly changes. A hot used car market has people cashing in on their leases. Surging prices for used cars means people who buy out their leases are actually saving money compared to buying the same model on the used car market. Other people make money reselling their leased vehicle after buying out the lease. Going that route is a risk, as purchasing a new vehicle could reduce your profit. The U.S. Mint stamped out nearly $15 billion in coins last year. That's up 24% from 2019. But still, store owners across the country are running low on change. CBS's Michael George tells us why.
A penny for your thoughts may be hard to find lately. Coins are once again in short supply, even though the U.S. Mint says it's cranking them out at near record speed. The problem is, Americans just aren't using their change.
Sometimes it's simpler to just go cashless.
The Mint's director is now asking people to dust off their spare change and start spending it.
Together, we can get coins moving again and into the hands of the people and businesses that desperately need them.
It's part of a nationwide trend. America is going cashless. A survey by the Atlanta Federal Reserve shows the use of cash and checks dropping fast, while credit and debit cards climb steadily higher. Not only is it easier, but people like Zoe Miller say hands-free payments feel safer during a pandemic.
I think that's when I really got into Apple Pay and using my credit card.
Nowadays, you can even pay at a food truck with a credit card or an app. But America's cashless trend, while convenient, is having some unintended consequences.
The first problem is it marginalizes the poor and the unbanked.
Dr. Jay Zagorski is a senior lecturer at the Questrom School of Business at Boston University.
Most of us have credit cards, most of us have debit cards, but somewhere around 7% of US society doesn't. And why don't they? Because many people find that banks are quite expensive.
And when we rely only on electronic payment, it can increase the risk of hacking or losing privacy.
I'm not saying credit cards are evil and the cash is great. I'm saying by keeping both of them around, we're protecting ourselves and we're protecting society.
Instead of a cashless future, maybe just a future with less cash. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Thank you so much for starting your Monday with us here on Montana This Morning.